The Manhattan skyline glittered outside, a sea of skyscrapers framed by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the hotel's penthouse suite. Ethan Cross, was sunk into a plush sofa, the final contract for a multi-billion-dollar acquisition spread across the coffee table in front of me. My team was already out celebrating, but I preferred this, the quiet satisfaction after the storm, a rare moment of peace. The silence was broken by the sharp buzz of my phone lighting up the dim room. It wasn't a call, not even a text message, but a push notification from my bank. Your platinum card ending in 8888 was just charged $285,000 at 5:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Global Auto Imports. $285,000. My brow furrowed instantly. That card was a supplementary card linked to my primary account. I had given it to my wife, Chloe. We'd been married for 3 years. I handled the business, she handled our home. After my company's IPO, I gave her complete financial freedom, or at least the freedom to spend as she wished. The no-limit black card was a symbol of that. She could buy any designer bag, any piece of jewelry she fancied, or even charter a private island for a vacation on a whim. I never questioned a single one of her purchases. I trusted her, and frankly, that kind of money was a drop in the bucket for me. But $285,000 at a car dealership? That was out of character. Chloe already had a car, a white Maserati I'd given her for her birthday 2 years ago. She wasn't a car person. As long as it drove smoothly, she was happy. She was definitely not the type to suddenly splurge on a new vehicle. A faint but distinct unease began to creep in. I dialed her number. It rang for a long time before she picked up. The background was noisy, filled with the thumping beat of music and the laughter of young men and women. "Hey, honey." Chloe's voice was laced with a lazy annoyance, as if my call was an interruption. "I'm out with some friends right now. Is something wrong? It's pretty late to be calling." Her tone made my frown deepen. "Did you just spend $285,000? I asked, getting straight to the point. My voice was flat, betraying no emotion. There was a noticeable pause on her end. Then, in a matter-of-fact tone, she said, "Oh, that. Yeah, I did. What's the big deal? Did the bank call you to tattle on me?" "Tattle on you?" The absurdity of her phrasing made me let out a short, humorless laugh. "Chloe, did you buy a new car? You never mentioned anything." "Ugh, it's not for me," she said, her impatience growing. "It's for Leo." Now, the name was like a tiny needle pricking at my heart. He was Chloe's assistant. I had bankrolled a small boutique PR firm for Chloe, something to keep her occupied and fulfill her dream of being an independent woman. Leo was an assistant she'd hired herself, a fresh-faced college grad, good-looking and a smooth talker. I met him a few times, but didn't have a strong impression, other than the way his eyes followed Chloe with a look of near worship. I pushed down the strange feeling in my gut. "You bought your assistant a car for $285,000? I asked, my voice low. "I did." Her voice rose, tinged with a note of pride, as if she were expecting praise. "Leo has been working so hard, running around for me. He's been absolutely indispensable. We just landed a huge new client, and he's been pulling all-nighters. He's lost so much weight. I felt bad seeing him take the subway every day, so I thought I'd give him a little bonus. It'll make it easier for him to meet with clients, you know? It's an investment in talent." "You're a businessman? Honey, you get it." I was silent. An investment in talent? Was an assistant worth a nearly $300,000 incentive? That seemed a bit rich. More importantly, it was my money. "Chloe," my voice turned cold. "A company car follows company procedure and budget. A car that costs over $250,000 for an assistant is not standard protocol." "Protocol? What protocol?" She immediately flew off the handle, as if I'd hit a nerve. "It's my company. I can give a car to whoever I want." "Ethan, what are you trying to say? Are you questioning my management skills? Or are you suddenly concerned about the money? It's a couple $100,000. That's nothing to you. Why are you being so petty, calling me up to rake me over the coals?" The accusations came rapid fire, like a spray of bullets. I could almost picture her, hands on her hips, eyes wide with indignation. There was a time I found that fiery attitude of hers charming. But now, transmitted through a cold satellite connection from halfway across the world, it was just grating and absurd. "I'm not concerned about the money," I said, each word deliberate as I fought to keep my voice steady. "I just think you should have at least told me first. It was my money that you spent. What difference would it have made? You're busy overseas. I didn't want to bother you. Besides, your money is my money, isn't it? We're married. Ethan, have you been away for too long? Are you starting to get a wandering eye? Is that why you're suddenly keeping score? Her logic, as always, was a fortress. She used our marriage as a shield for her whims and disrespect. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, feeling a wave of exhaustion I hadn't felt in years. It was more draining than the 3 days of nonstop acquisition meetings I had just endured. Whose name is on the title? I asked the last, most critical question. Another brief silence. Leo's, of course, Chloe said, her voice wavering slightly. It's better for his image when he's out representing the company. Why are you asking so many questions? It's like an interrogation. I laughed. It was a cold, bitter laugh that came from deep in my chest. Chloe, I said, my voice quiet but as sharp as ice. Do you take me for a fool? My reaction seemed to stun her. It took a few seconds for her to shriek back. What's that supposed to mean? Ethan, are you crazy? All I did was give my employee a perk, and you're insulting me like this? A perk? Signing over the title of a sports car to an employee is a perk? Chloe, are you running a charity? Or is your relationship with this assistant so close that he feels perfectly comfortable accepting what amounts to a mobile condo from you? You're talking nonsense. Her voice started to tremble, a mix of guilt and rage. Ethan, I can't believe how disgusting your mind is. There is nothing going on between Leo and me. He's my subordinate. He's like a little brother to me. I know his family doesn't have much, and it's hard for him starting out in a big city. So I just wanted to help him out. And this is what you think? You are being completely unreasonable. A little brother. Such a convenient, all-purpose excuse. I had no desire to argue with her anymore. When someone starts substituting emotion and accusations for logic and facts, any meaningful conversation is over. Return the car, I said, delivering my final ultimatum in a tone that left no room for debate. Have the money refunded to the card. Then, I want you to fire Leo. Effective immediately. That's my bottom line. No way. She refused without a second thought, her voice so shrill it almost pierced my eardrum. Ethan, I hung up before she could finish. Listening to the dial tone, I leaned back against the sofa and stared up at the brilliant crystal chandelier. Its light stung my eyes. Memories of the last 3 years flashed through my mind like a movie on fast forward. I remembered when we first met. She was a fresh college graduate, innocent and kind, the type of girl who would cry over a stray cat on the street. I remembered when I was struggling to get my startup off the ground. She was there with me, eating instant noodles for a month straight in a tiny 100-square-foot rented room without a single complaint. She would smile and tell me, "Don't worry, Ethan. I believe in you." I remember the day my company went public. As the closing bell rang, we held each other tightly, and I whispered to her, "Chloe, from now on, I'm going to give you the best life imaginable." And I did. I gave her the best of everything she had ever dreamed of. Luxury cars, a mansion, countless designer goods, and a company she could play with. I thought our love was forged in those early years of shared struggle, that it was unbreakable. But was I wrong? Did I, with my money, turn that once simple girl into this ungrateful, profligate monster? No. Perhaps I was only now seeing who she truly was. Once the veil of poverty was lifted, what lay beneath was the naked greed and selfishness of human nature. I picked up my phone again. This time, I didn't call Chloe. I called my personal assistant back in San Francisco, Sarah Lynn. "Sarah, it's me. Mr. Cross. It must be the middle of the night for you. Is there something urgent?" Sarah's voice was, as always, crisp and efficient. "I need you to look into 2 things for me. As soon as possible." My voice was ice. "First, I want a complete background check on an assistant at my wife's company named Leo's son. I want everything: family history, his performance since he was hired, and any and all rumors about his relationship with Chloe, both in and out of the office. The more detailed, the better. Second, use whatever resources you need to get me every detail about the vehicle purchased this afternoon from Global Auto Imports with my supplementary card, ending in 8888. I want the model, the specs, and most importantly, whose signature is on the sales contract." "Right away, Mr. Cross. I'm on it," Sarah replied without any unnecessary questions. After hanging up, I walked to the window and looked down at the concrete jungle below. No matter how beautiful the New York night was, it couldn't warm the chill in my heart. I had given Chloe a chance to end this gracefully. If her next actions showed even a shred of remorse or respect for me, perhaps this marriage could be saved. But if she continued down this path, my gaze turned cold. Then everything I had given her I would take back, piece by piece. Efficiency was Sarah Lynn's trademark. In less than an hour, the first report arrived in my encrypted inbox. I clicked it open, my face impassive in the glow of the screen. The report was long, detailed, and even included several discreetly taken photographs. Leo's son, 23 years old, from a working-class family in a small Rust Belt town. His parents were factory workers, and he had a younger brother in college. He graduated from a no-name state school with a lackluster resume. The only reason he'd landed the job at Chloe's firm was his glib tongue during the interview. In less than a year, his job title hadn't changed, but his lifestyle had undergone a seismic shift. He had moved from a shared apartment to a luxury high-rise downtown with a monthly rent of over $5,000. His wardrobe was now entirely composed of current-season luxury brands. The watch on his wrist was a Patek Philippe worth over $50,000. Chloe had mentioned these things to me in passing, dismissing them as company perks and rewards for a star employee. I believed her. I thought that, as a CEO, I shouldn't meddle in the internal operations of her small company. I even thought she had a good eye for talent and knew how to retain it. How laughable that seemed now. The report included several photos. One was from last week, outside a high-end sushi restaurant. Leo was holding the car door open for Chloe, who was laughing, her head thrown back. It was a radiant smile, the kind I hadn't seen on her face in a long time. Another was from 2 weeks ago, in an airport VIP lounge. Chloe was asleep, her head resting on Leo's shoulder, covered by his jacket. They were on their way to a tech summit in a neighboring city. Chloe had told me she was going with a few female colleagues. The last photo was taken that very afternoon, inside the car dealership. It was slightly blurry, but you could clearly see Chloe holding Leo's arm, their heads close together as they looked at a bright red Ferrari. They were as intimate as a couple in the throes of new love. And that Ferrari was the star of today's transaction. At the end of the report, Sarah had added a short note. Mr. Cross, according to employees at the firm, the relationship between Ms. Vance and Leo's son is an open secret. He uses his favored status to act arrogantly, bully his colleagues, and has terrible work performance. He gets by purely on his ability to flatter Ms. Vance. Everyone is angry, but no one dares to speak up. I read every word, then closed the email and leaned back in my chair with a heavy thud. So, I was the last one to know. The fool kept in the dark. What I had perceived as a partnership, a marriage of equals, was, in her eyes, nothing more than an ATM that funded her extravagant lifestyle and allowed her to keep a little brother. My trust, my respect, the marriage I had carefully tried to maintain, it was all worthless to her. Just then, the second email arrived. It was a scanned copy of the purchase agreement from the dealership. I clicked on the attachment. The cold, black and white text was like a knife twisting in my gut. Purchaser, Leo's son. On the signature line, 2 words were scrawled in a flamboyant hand. Leo's son. And in the payment information section, it clearly stated, paid by credit card. Cardholder, Ethan Cross. Next to it, a small, handwritten note. Payment authorized on-site by cardholder's spouse, Miss Chloe Vance. Authorized on-site. How very thoughtful of her. She had used my card to buy her little brother a car worth nearly $300,000, put it in his name, and set him on the fast track to a life of luxury. And I, the actual payer, was thousands of miles away, a clown who remained oblivious until a cold transaction alert popped up on his phone. My phone began to vibrate violently. The name Chloe danced on the screen. I ignored it. It rang relentlessly, over and over, as if determined to drain its battery. Then, a call from my mother came through. I took a deep breath and answered. Ethan, what is going on with you and Chloe? She called me crying, saying you want to divorce her over a little bit of money. Have you lost your mind? A wife as good as Chloe is 1 in a million. Are you seeing someone else? I'm telling you, Ethan, if you dare do anything to wrong that girl, you'll have me to answer to first. My mother's scolding was immediate and fierce. I could just imagine the tear-streaked, twisted version of events Chloe had fed her. In front of our elders, she always played the part of the perfect, obedient, and understanding daughter-in-law. Mom, my voice was frighteningly calm. Do you have any idea what she did? So she bought an employee a car? Chloe told me everything. It was for the good of the company. How can you be so stingy? You make all that money. Who are you going to spend it on if not your wife? Have you forgotten who was by your side when you had nothing? The same old argument. Using the past to hold my present hostage. Mom, the car is registered in that male assistant's name. She used my money to give another man the equivalent of a down payment on a house. Do you think that's appropriate? The other end of the line went silent. My mother might be biased towards Chloe, but she wasn't a fool. After a long moment, she stammered, well, maybe it was just for work convenience. Chloe isn't a reckless person. Don't be so impulsive. There's nothing that can't be talked over between a husband and wife. You call Chloe right now and apologize, and we'll let this whole thing go. Apologize? She wanted me to apologize to her? I laughed. Mom, I know how to handle this. You should get some rest. I hung up and, without a moment's hesitation, temporarily blocked both my mother's and Chloe's numbers. Finally, silence. I picked up my phone again. This time, I dialed my private banker, Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace, good evening. Sorry to disturb you. Mr. Cross, not at all. We heard the news about your deal in New York. Congratulations. It's the biggest acquisition of the year. Mr. Wallace's voice was warm and enthusiastic. Thank you, I said, skipping the pleasantries. I need you to do something for me. Right now. Immediately. Of course, Mr. Cross. How can I help? My eyes drifted back to the window, to the false prosperity of the city lights below. My voice was devoid of all warmth. Freeze all assets held under my name and any joint assets connected to my wife, Chloe Vance. Excuse me? Mr. Wallace sounded like he'd misheard. The shock was evident in his voice. Mr. Cross, did you say all of them? Yes, all of them. I repeated, my tone ironclad. That would include all bank accounts in your and Ms. Vance's names, all credit cards, including the supplementary black card, all stocks, funds, trusts, and the various properties and equities our bank manages on your behalf. Mr. Cross, the consequences of this action are severe. Once frozen, Ms. Vance will be unable to access a single cent. Even her ability to make simple online payments will be suspended. Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed? Mr. Wallace enunciated every word slowly and clearly, making sure I understood the gravity of my request. I knew. Of course I knew. That was precisely the outcome I wanted. I wanted her to fall from the clouds and hit the ground. Hard. I wanted her to be reminded of exactly who had given her everything she owned, everything she flaunted, everything she used to spoil her little brother. I am certain, I said calmly. Execute it immediately. And one more thing, please contact my divorce attorney, Mr. Roth. I want him to assemble his best forensic accounting team and be at my house and at Chloe's office first thing in the morning to begin a full asset audit. I'm filing for divorce. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Mr. Wallace was likely stunned by my swift and brutal actions. After what felt like a full minute, he finally spoke, his voice heavy with a complex mix of professionalism and awe. Very well, Mr. Cross. I understand. I will take care of it for you immediately. After hanging up, I felt completely drained. I went to the minibar and poured myself a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid swirled in the glass like a shattered sunset. I downed it in one gulp, the burn searing a path from my throat to my stomach. But I felt no buzz, no intoxication. Instead, I felt a piercing clarity. I could see with perfect clearness how my 3-year marriage had rotted and decayed without my notice, becoming nothing more than a beautiful, hollow shell. I knew with absolute certainty that from the moment I made this decision, there was no turning back for Chloe and me. Good. I, Ethan Cross, have never been one to drag things out. Not in business, and not in love. The next day, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I calculated the time difference. The show was about to begin. As expected, my assistant Sarah Lynn's call came right on time. Mr. Cross, everything has been handled according to your instructions. Report. Mr. Wallace's team completed the asset freeze late last night. This morning, Mr. Roth, along with his accountants and a security detail, entered both your and Ms. Vance's residence and her company offices. Chloe's reaction? I asked, taking a sip of my coffee. According to Mr. Roth, Ms. Vance initially thought it was some kind of elaborate prank, Sarah said, a hint of amusement in her voice. She went shopping this morning to buy a new Hermes bag, but all her cards were declined. She called the bank and was informed her accounts were frozen. She apparently caused quite a scene at the mall, threatening to sue the bank. And then she stormed back to her office, where she ran right into Mr. Roth's team. Mr. Roth presented her with your power of attorney and a legal notice informing her that you were initiating a marital asset audit in preparation for a divorce. That's when she completely lost it. How so? I asked, a flicker of interest in my voice. She screamed. She cursed. She called you a monster and a heartless bastard. She tried to throw Mr. Roth and his team out, but our security detail stopped her. Oh, and there's another interesting detail. Go on. That assistant, Leo's son, was there. The moment he saw what was happening, his first instinct wasn't to defend Ms. Vance, but to try and sneak out the back. He was also stopped by security. Mr. Roth informed him that the Ferrari, valued at $285,000, is considered an illegal transfer of marital assets, and that he must cooperate with the investigation or face a lawsuit. The kid practically collapsed on the spot. I could picture the scene perfectly. The pretty boy who got ahead by charming a rich woman, utterly useless in the face of a real storm. What is Chloe doing now? She's been blowing up your phone with calls and texts. When she couldn't reach you, she started calling your mother, your best friends, anyone and everyone she could think of, crying about your cruelty. Ignore them, I said, my voice flat. Understood. Mr. Cross, there's one more thing. The accountants found several major discrepancies in Ms. Vance's company books. Sarah's tone became serious. With your funding, the company looks successful on the surface, but the internal accounts are a mess. And several large payments were traced to a few private accounts, one of which belongs to Leo's son. What's the total? A preliminary audit shows that over the past year, Ms. Vance has funneled over $800,000 to Leo's son's personal account under the guise of fake project fees and bonuses. That doesn't even include the luxury goods she bought for him personally. $800,000. I had given her a company to build her own sense of worth, and she had used my money to fill the pockets of another man. Suddenly, that $285,000 car seemed almost insignificant. Secure all the evidence, I ordered coldly. Give it to Mr. Roth. He'll know what to do. Yes, Mr. Cross. After the call, I looked at the live security feed from her office entrance that Sarah had just sent to my laptop. In the video, Chloe was a mess. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup was smeared with tears, and she was sitting on the steps of her office building like a crazy person, screaming into her phone. Beside her, her little brother Leo looked pale and lost, like a terrified quail. All their previous glamour had vanished. This is what you wanted, Chloe. This is the price you pay for betraying me, for making a fool of me, for trampling on my dignity. And this is only the beginning. For the next few days, I completely cut off contact with all friends and family back home, focusing on finalizing the acquisition deal in New York. Chloe's drama, however, never stopped. First, she tried the classic three-act play of crying, screaming, and threatening self-harm. When she couldn't reach me, she started spreading rumors among our social circle, painting me as a cold-blooded monster who found a new trophy wife overseas and abandoned the woman who had stood by him. She tearfully recounted to our mutual friends how I had blown a small issue out of proportion, how I had no regard for a shared history, and how I was using money to humiliate her. My phone was inundated with messages. Many friends, ignorant of the facts, sent texts to question and condemn me. Ethan, you've gone too far. Chloe loves you so much. How could you do this to her? It was just a car. Is it really worth destroying your marriage over? You're being cruel. You were married. You should at least part amicably. Freezing all her assets is like pushing her off a cliff. I read the messages, replied to none of them, and simply deleted each sender from my contact list. If they could be so easily swayed by Chloe's lies, they weren't worthy of being my friends. Chloe's second tactic was to play the family card. She dragged my mother to Mr. Roth's law firm and threw a tantrum in his office, claiming I was a disgrace who had lost my mind and was trying to drive my wife and my own mother to their graves. My mother joined in, wailing and pointing her finger at Mr. Roth, accusing him of being a homewrecker who was sowing discord in our family. But Mr. Roth was one of the top divorce lawyers in the country. He'd seen more crazy clients than I'd had hot dinners. He calmly called security, recorded the entire incident, and politely informed them that if they continued to obstruct his work, he would call the police. The farce ended with them being escorted out of the building. Afterward, Mr. Roth called me, his voice tinged with a weary sympathy. "Mr. Cross, your wife and your mother are quite a pair. Truly an eye-opening experience." I gave a bitter laugh. "Sorry you had to deal with that. Let's talk business." Mr. Roth's tone turned professional again. "The asset audit is mostly complete. The situation is even worse than we initially thought. Besides the $800,000 in the company accounts, Ms. Vance spent over $2 million from your supplementary card on Leo's son's personal expenses over the past 2 years. This includes luxury goods, vacations, fine dining, and she even used your name to buy a villa fully paid for his parents in his hometown." My hand tightened around my coffee mug. $2 million. My hard-earned money, the result of my battles in the corporate world, was used so casually to pamper another man and his entire family. I had truly been nurturing a snake in my own home. Furthermore, Mr. Roth continued, "We've discovered serious tax evasion in Ms. Vance's company. If this were to be reported, she would not only face massive fines, but she could also face criminal charges." My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. I had loved her so much that I would have done anything for her. And she had used my love and trust to dance on the edge of the law. "Mr. Cross, as it stands, we have more than enough evidence for her to walk away with nothing in the divorce. We can also legally recover all the assets she illegally transferred to Leo's son. As for the tax issue, that's up to you." Mr. Roth left the choice in my hands. I knew what he meant. If I still had some lingering affection, I could choose not to report it and spare her from prison. If I wanted to be ruthless, I could make her pay the ultimate price for her stupidity and greed. I fell silent. The image of the girl who ate instant noodles with me flashed in my mind. Her smile was once the only motivation I needed. But when did that girl turn into the hideous person she was today? Or perhaps she had never changed at all. I was just the one who was blinded by love. As I hesitated, my other phone, a private line with a number only a handful of people knew, rang. The caller ID was an unknown number. I frowned and answered. A timid, tearful young man's voice came from the other end. "Is this Ethan Cross? Mr. Cross? This is he. Who's this?" It's Leo Sunday." I was momentarily stunned. Then a cold smirk spread across my face. "Speak of the devil. What do you want?" My tone could have frozen water. Mr. Cross, I'm so sorry. I really am." Leo wailed into the phone, his words tumbling out in a panicked rush. "It was all Chloe, no. It was all her. She made me do it. The money, the gifts, she forced them on me. She said she loved you, but she loved me more. She said you were just her bank. She told me she was sick of you and that as soon as she got enough money out of you, she was going to dump you and run away with me." "Did she force you to buy the Ferrari too?" I cut him off coldly. Yes, he pleaded desperately. "I never wanted such an expensive car. She insisted on buying it for me, said it was proof of her love. She told me she was using her own card. I had no idea it was your supplementary card, Mr. Cross. I'm just a poor kid fresh out of school. She took advantage of me. I was a fool. Please, I'm begging you, let me go. I can return the car right now. The money, I'll find a way to pay you back. Please don't sue me. I don't want to go to jail." To save his own skin, he threw Chloe completely under the bus. He didn't even hesitate to say the most vicious things, words that would nail Chloe to a cross of shame forever. Listening to him, I felt no anger, only a dead, hollow sorrow. "Chloe, this is the little brother you gave everything to protect. A backstabbing, ungrateful parasite. The two of you really were made for each other. Everything you just said," I began slowly. "I'm having my lawyer record. It will be used as evidence in court. Thank you for providing the most compelling testimony for my divorce case." "No, Mr. Cross, that's not what I meant." I hung up and immediately forwarded the call recording to Mr. Roth. I attached a simple message. "Mr. Roth, regarding the tax issue, proceed by the book." I had given her a chance. She was the one who tore her last shred of dignity to pieces. The final stages of the acquisition in New York went smoothly. A week later, I was on a flight back home. When I walked through the VIP exit at the airport, it wasn't Chloe waiting for me, but my assistant Sarah and Mr. Roth. "Welcome back, Mr. Cross." I nodded, got into the car, and asked, "What's the status?" Mr. Roth handed me a file and gave a concise report. "Chloe has signed the divorce papers. She gets nothing. The car and villa under Leo's son's name, as well as the funds in his account, have all been frozen and are being recovered through legal channels. The IRS has also launched an investigation into her company, and a case has been officially opened. No more drama from her. She's in no position to cause any more drama," Mr. Roth said with a grim smile. When she found out that Leo had thrown all the blame on her to save himself and had even given us recordings of their private, incriminating conversations, she had a complete breakdown. By the time she signed the papers, she was just numb. I glanced at the documents in my hand. Chloe's signature was a messy, crooked scrawl, much like the wreckage of her life. I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet sense of finality. "And my mother?" "Your mother visited my office once." Mr. Roth chose his words carefully. "She wanted you to go easy on Chloe, for her sake. I showed her all the evidence, including the recordings from Leo. After she saw it all, she left without saying another word. I can imagine the impact of those vile truths on my mother, a woman of traditional values. Perhaps in that moment, she finally understood the true character of the perfect daughter-in-law she had been so proud of." The car moved smoothly down the highway, the familiar cityscape rushing by outside the window, yet it all seemed slightly foreign. "Take me to the house in Crestview," I said. That was the house Chloe and I called home. An hour later, the car pulled up to the gate. I got out and looked at the familiar structure. The rose bushes in the garden, Chloe's favorite, were in full bloom. I took out my key and opened the door. The house was a mess. Cushions were thrown about the living room. A vase on the coffee table was shattered, and withered petals were mixed with shards of glass on the floor. The air was thick with a sense of suffocating despair. Most of Chloe's belongings were gone. Only a few scattered items she couldn't take, or didn't bother to take, remained. I walked to the large window in the living room where our massive wedding portrait used to hang. In the photo, I was in a sharp suit, a gentle smile on my face. She was in a white gown, nestled in my arms, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Now the wall was bare, save for a single, lonely hook. I stood there for a long time, until the setting sun stretched my shadow long across the floor. My phone vibrated with a news alert. Prominent PR firm Vance Media under criminal investigation for major tax fraud. CEO Chloe Vance taken into custody. I glanced at the headline and swiped it away without expression. Then I called Sarah. "Sarah, find me a real estate agent. I want to sell the Crestview house." "Of course, Mr. Cross. And the roses in the garden. Have them all ripped out. I don't like them." "Understood." After hanging up, I took one last look at the place I once called home. It held 3 years of my marriage, 3 years of my love, 3 years of my trust. And today I buried it all myself. There was no pain, no regret, only the lightness of release. I turned and walked out of the house. I didn't look back. The door closed softly behind me, the sound like the end of an era. The sky outside was blue. The breeze was gentle. A new life was beginning.